In the year 2347, humanity stood at the peak of its power. Centuries of conflict, innovation, and exploration had transformed Earth from a divided planet into a united force. The United Earth Fleet, born from humanity's determination to survive and thrive, was now the guardian of human civilization across the stars. At its heart was the Aegis, a Titan-class warship unlike anything ever built. Stretching over 20 kilometers in length, it was a floating fortress bristling with weapons capable of destroying entire moons. Its sleek, metallic hull gleamed under the light of distant suns, and its quantum reactors hummed with energy so potent that scientists once thought it impossible to harness. Captain Elena Vasquez stood on the bridge of the Aegis, her sharp eyes scanning the holographic displays around her. She was a seasoned leader, known for her calm demeanor and unshakable resolve. Her crew trusted her implicitly, and she carried the weight of their lives and the hopes of humanity on her shoulders. Today, however, the mission was simple: patrol the edge of Proxima Centauri, one of Earth's closest stellar neighbors, and ensure no threats loomed near human colonies. The Aegis drifted silently through the void, its sensors sweeping the surrounding space. Everything seemed routine until Lieutenant Marcus Kane, the ship's tactical officer, broke the silence. "Captain," he said, his voice steady but tinged with urgency, "we're picking up an anomaly ahead." Elena turned toward him, her brow furrowing. "Details." "It's big," Marcus replied, pulling up data on the central display. A massive object was emerging from what appeared to be a tear in space-time, a phenomenon known as hyperspace. Hyperspace travel was still theoretical for humans, but here it was, happening right before their eyes. The object grew larger as it materialized, dwarfing even the colossal Aegis. Its surface shimmered like liquid metal, reflecting the faint glow of nearby stars. It didn't look like any ship humanity had ever seen. "Red alert," Elena ordered, her voice cutting through the tension. Alarms blared as the crew sprang into action. Weapons systems came online, shields powered up, and communication arrays began broadcasting standard first contact protocols. But there was no response. The alien vessel simply hovered there, silent and unmoving. Dr. Pryor, the ship's chief scientist, leaned closer to her console, analyzing readings. "Captain, this thing, it's not just a machine. Parts of it are organic, like living tissue fused with technology." Elena frowned. "Living? Are you sure?" Pryor nodded. "Positive. Whatever this is, it's beyond our understanding." Minutes passed, each one feeling like hours. Then, without warning, a bright flash illuminated the bridge. A hologram flickered to life in front of them, a towering figure with 6 limbs and a chitinous exoskeleton. Its compound eyes glowed faintly as it spoke in a deep, resonant voice. Though the words were incomprehensible, translation algorithms quickly deciphered them. "I am Calvera of the Zenari Collective," the figure announced. "We seek dialogue, but know this: deception will not be tolerated." The crew exchanged uneasy glances. Humanity had dreamed of this moment for centuries. First contact with an alien species, but now that it was here, the reality was far more daunting than anyone had imagined. Elena stepped forward, her voice firm despite the uncertainty swirling inside her. "I am Captain Elena Vasquez of the United Earth Fleet. We come in peace and welcome open communication." Calvera tilted its head, studying her intently. For a moment, there was only silence. Then the alien spoke again. "Prove your intentions, or face judgment." As the hologram vanished, leaving the crew in stunned silence, Elena realized this encounter would test humanity in ways they could never have anticipated. The galaxy was watching, and failure was not an option. The bridge of the Aegis was tense, every crew member glued to their stations. The massive alien vessel loomed outside the viewport, its shimmering surface reflecting faint starlight like ripples on water. Captain Elena Vasquez stood at the center of it all, her mind racing. Calvera's parting words: "Prove your intentions, or face judgment, hung heavily in the air. What did they mean? And what exactly were the Scenari expecting? Lieutenant Marcus Kane broke the silence. "Captain, we're still scanning their ship. It's incredible." He hesitated, his brow furrowed as he studied the data streaming across his console. "Their technology is unlike anything we've seen. Energy signatures are off the charts, and there's some kind of biological component involved." Alina nodded but didn't respond immediately. Her gaze remained fixed on the alien vessel. Something about it unsettled her, not just its size or strangeness, but the way it seemed almost alive, pulsating faintly as though breathing. She glanced at Dr. Pryor, who was already deep in analysis. "What do you make of it, Doctor?" Alina asked. Pryor looked up, her expression a mix of awe and concern. "It's not just advanced, it's adaptive. Sensors show constant shifts in its structure, like it's learning or evolving in real time. And those biological components Marcus mentioned, they're not separate from the tech. They're integrated. This thing isn't just a machine piloted by aliens. It is the alien." The revelation sent a ripple through the bridge. Humanity had always imagined alien civilizations as either purely technological or entirely organic. But this fusion of life and machinery defied everything they knew. Before anyone could process further, another message came through. This time, Calvera's holographic form appeared again, towering over them. Its voice echoed with an eerie calmness. "You hesitate. Why?" Alina straightened, meeting the glowing eyes of the insectoid figure. "We're analyzing your ship and trying to understand your intentions," she replied evenly. "Communication takes time." Calvera tilted its head slightly, as if considering her words. Then, without warning, the alien's tone shifted, cold and commanding. "Time is a luxury you do not have. Comply, or consequences will follow." The hologram vanished, leaving the crew stunned. Tension crackled in the air like static electricity. Lieutenant Kane clenched his fists around the edges of his console. That didn't sound friendly. "No, it didn't," Alina agreed. She turned to her communications officer, Ensign Clara Hayes. "Clara, any luck deciphering more of their language?" Clara shook her head, frustration evident on her face. "Bits and pieces, Captain. Their syntax is complex, and their symbols keep changing. It's like they're using multiple layers of encryption." Alina sighed, rubbing her temples. Dealing with an unknown species was stressful enough, but doing so while deciphering their language felt like solving a puzzle blindfolded. Still, she refused to let fear dictate her actions. Humanity had come too far to falter now. "Dr. Nair," Alina said, turning back to Praya, "can we send a probe closer to their ship? I want visual confirmation of what we're dealing with." Praya hesitated before nodding. "I'll program one of the drones to approach cautiously. But if they see it as a threat, we'll take that risk." Alina interrupted firmly. "We need answers." Minutes later, a small reconnaissance drone launched from the Aegis, drifting silently toward the alien colossus. As it neared, cameras captured astonishing details, intricate patterns etched into the metallic skin, glowing veins of energy running beneath the surface, and strange, pod-like structures embedded within the hull. Before the drone could get closer, however, a tendril of light shot out from the alien ship, vaporizing it instantly. Back on the bridge, alarms blared as the crew scrambled to assess the situation. Alina raised a hand, silencing them. "They're testing us," she said quietly, "and we're going to pass their test." Her determination ignited a spark among the crew. Whatever lay ahead, they would face it together. For now, humanity's survival depended on proving they were worthy of trust, or at least capable of standing their ground. The destruction of the reconnaissance drone sent a clear message. The Scenari were not to be trifled with. Captain Alina Vasquez stood silently on the bridge, her arms crossed as she stared at the alien vessel through the viewport. The shimmering, biomechanical giant floated effortlessly in space, its surface rippling like waves under moonlight. It was beautiful and terrifying. Analysis, Elena asked, breaking the heavy silence. Dr. Pryor leaned over her console, her fingers flying across holographic keys. Their reaction was instantaneous and precise. They didn't just destroy the drone. They disintegrated it without leaving a trace. Whatever energy they used isn't something we've encountered before. Lieutenant Marcus Kane chimed in, his voice tense. And that's not all, Captain. Sensors picked up fluctuations in their energy field right after the attack. It's like they're reacting to us. Elena frowned. Reacting how? Praya hesitated, choosing her words carefully. It's possible they're scanning us, or probing our systems. If this ship is truly alive, then its actions might be driven by instinct as much as intelligence. The thought sent a chill down Elena's spine. An alien species capable of blending biology and technology was already daunting, but one that could think, adapt, and respond like a living organism. That changed everything. Before anyone could delve deeper into the implications, Ensign Clara Hayes called out from her station. Captain, I'm picking up something unusual. There's chatter coming from their ship. Not communication signals, exactly, but patterns, like neural activity. Neural activity, Elena repeated, her curiosity piqued. Clara nodded. Yes, ma'am. It's faint, but consistent. It's almost as if the ship itself has a mind. The revelation sparked a flurry of theories among the crew. Was the Zenari vessel sentient? Were the Zenari controlling it? Or were they part of it? The questions only deepened the mystery surrounding these enigmatic beings. Determined to uncover more, Elena turned to Lieutenant Kane. Marcus, assemble a team. We need to get closer. Use one of the shuttles equipped with advanced scanners. Be cautious, though. If they see you as a threat, we may not get another chance. Kane saluted sharply. Understood, Captain. Minutes later, a sleek shuttle detached from the Aegis and began its cautious approach toward the alien colossus. Inside, Kane led a small group of engineers and scientists, including Dr. Nair, who insisted on joining despite the risks. As they drew nearer, the sheer scale of the Zenari ship became even more apparent. Its surface was a labyrinth of shifting textures and glowing veins, pulsating rhythmically like a heartbeat. This thing really is alive, Praya murmured, awestruck. She adjusted the shuttle's sensors, focusing them on specific areas of the alien hull. Data flooded the screens, revealing astonishing details. Clusters of what appeared to be organic tissue intertwined with crystalline structures, microscopic organisms working in tandem with nanomachines, and vast networks resembling synapses firing in unison. It's a hybrid, Praya said finally, her voice trembling with excitement. Not just machine or organism, but both. This ship doesn't just carry the Zenari. It is the Zenari. As the team continued their scans, an unexpected event occurred. A section of the alien hull shifted, opening like a blooming flower to reveal a dark cavity within. Without warning, a beam of light shot out, enveloping the shuttle. Alarms blared as the crew braced for impact, but instead of destruction, they found themselves immobilized, suspended in place. Back on the Aegis, Elena watched helplessly as the shuttle froze mid-flight. Her heart raced. Had they pushed too far? Before she could act, Calvera's holographic form reappeared on the bridge, towering over the humans once again. You seek answers, the alien emissary intoned. But beware, some truths are best left buried. Elena swallowed hard. Whatever secrets the Zenari guarded, they were about to become far more complicated than humanity had anticipated. The beam of light surrounding the shuttle faded, leaving it intact but eerily still. Back on the Aegis, Captain Elena Vasquez clenched her fists as she stared at the frozen image of the shuttle on her console. Her crew held their breath, waiting for Calvera's next move. The alien emissary's holographic form loomed over the bridge, its glowing eyes piercing through the tension. You seek answers, Calvera repeated, its voice resonating like thunder. But curiosity can be dangerous. Prove your worth, or leave this place. Alina stepped forward, her voice steady despite the unease bubbling inside her. We didn't come here to provoke you. We came in peace, seeking understanding. If we've overstepped, then tell us how to make amends. Calvera tilted its head slightly, as if considering her words. For a moment, there was silence. Then the alien spoke again. A demonstration. Show us your strength. If you are worthy allies, we will share our knowledge. If not, the sentence trailed off ominously. The bridge erupted into murmurs. A test. Was this some kind of challenge? Alina raised a hand to quiet her crew before turning back to Calvera. What kind of demonstration? A simulated combat exercise, the emissary replied. Pit your vessel against ours. No lives will be lost. But failure will reveal weakness. Alina hesitated. Simulated combat with an alien species far more advanced than humanity. It sounded reckless, but refusing could mean losing their chance at diplomacy, or worse, provoking hostility. She glanced at Lieutenant Marcus Kane, who gave her a subtle nod of encouragement. Whatever doubts he had, he trusted her judgment. Agreed, Alina said finally. We'll participate. Calvera's hologram vanished, and moments later, the shuttle returned safely to the Aegis. Dr. Prionaire and the rest of the team disembarked, shaken but unharmed. They reported that while immobilized, they'd witnessed strange patterns within the alien ship, shifting lights and pulses that seemed almost communicative. As preparations began for the simulation, Alina gathered her senior officers in the strategy room. Holographic projections of the Scenari ship dominated the table, its biomechanical design both fascinating and intimidating. This isn't just about showing off our firepower, Alina said firmly. It's about proving we're adaptable, intelligent, and capable of working together under pressure. Every decision counts. Marcus leaned forward, pointing at the projection. Their ship is alive, Captain. That means it might react unpredictably during the simulation. We need to stay flexible. Preya nodded. And don't underestimate them. Their technology is centuries ahead of ours. Even in a simulation, they'll push us to our limits. Hours later, the Aegis and the Zenari vessel positioned themselves in open space, surrounded by drifting asteroids and faint nebulae. A shimmering barrier formed between them, marking the boundaries of the simulation zone. Both ships powered up, their systems humming with anticipation. When the simulation began, the Zenari struck first. Streams of energy lashed out from their ship, moving faster than anything the Aegis sensors could track. But Alina had prepared for this. With lightning reflexes, she ordered evasive maneuvers, the massive warship weaving gracefully through the barrage. Lieutenant Kane coordinated counterattacks, launching swarms of drones equipped with experimental EMP weapons designed to disrupt alien tech. To everyone's surprise, the EMPs worked, at least partially. The Zenari ship faltered briefly, its surface flickering as though confused. But the aliens quickly adapted. Tentacle-like appendages extended from their hull, snaring the drones and crushing them effortlessly. Then came waves of energy projectiles, forcing the Aegis to activate its quantum shields at maximum capacity. Back on the bridge, alarms blared as the strain mounted. Yet even amid chaos, Alina remained calm. She barked orders with precision, guiding her crew through each crisis. When the Zenari unleashed a devastating energy pulse, she ordered the ship to vent plasma from its engines, creating a temporary decoy that absorbed the blow. By the time the simulation ended, both ships hovered silently, battered but intact. Calvera's hologram reappeared, this time with a hint of respect in its tone. You have proven resourceful, it said. Perhaps humanity is not as fragile as we believed. Alina allowed herself a small smile. Thank you. Now, will you tell us why you're really here? Calvera paused, then spoke gravely. There is a greater threat, a force that consumes civilizations. You call yourselves explorers. Be warned. Exploration comes with consequences. The cryptic warning left the crew uneasy, but one thing was clear. Humanity had earned a seat at the galactic table. For now, the Zenari's revelation hung heavy in the air like a storm cloud. A greater threat. What could possibly be worse than an alien species capable of disintegrating ships with a single pulse? Captain Elena Vasquez stood on the bridge of the Aegis, her mind racing as she replayed Calvera's words in her head. A force that consumes civilizations. The phrase sent shivers down her spine, but it also sparked a fire of determination within her. Humanity had faced countless challenges before. This was just another test. "Captain," Dr. Priya Nair called out from her station, breaking Belena's thoughts. "They're transmitting data. It looks like intelligence reports." Belena turned to face her. "About this greater threat?" Priya nodded, her expression grim as she sifted through the incoming information. Holographic displays lit up around her, showing images of destroyed star systems, planets reduced to barren wastelands, and fleets annihilated without a trace. At the center of each image was a swirling mass of darkness, a void-like entity that seemed to absorb everything around it. "This is what they call the void spawn," Priya explained. "From what I can decipher, these things aren't biological or mechanical. They're pure energy, feeding on advanced civilizations, specifically their technological advancements." Lieutenant Marcus Kane leaned over her shoulder, his brow furrowed. "So they're like parasites, feeding off progress." "More like locusts," Priya corrected. "Once they arrive in a system, they consume everything. Resources, knowledge, life itself. And when there's nothing left, they move on." Elena crossed her arms, her gaze fixed on the ominous images. "Why share this with us now?" "They need allies," Marcus suggested. "If these void spawn are as dangerous as they claim, even the Zenari might not stand a chance alone." As if on cue, Calvera's hologram reappeared on the bridge, its towering form casting long shadows across the room. "You have seen the truth," it said, its voice resonant and grave. "The void spawn are relentless. They do not negotiate. They do not retreat. But you, humanity, hold something unique." Elena frowned. "What do you mean?" Calvera gestured toward the Aegis. "Your quantum core, the heart of your vessel, is unlike anything we've encountered. Its energy signature disrupts the void spawn's resonance. Combined with our own technology, it may give us a fighting chance." The crew exchanged uneasy glances. Their quantum core was humanity's most prized invention, powering everything from interstellar travel to advanced weaponry. Sharing it, even temporarily, felt like handing over their greatest secret. Yet, how could they refuse when the stakes were so high? "Dr. Nair," Elena said, turning to the scientist, "is there any merit to their claim?" Priya hesitated, scrolling through calculations. "Theoretically, yes. If we synchronize our quantum field with their biomechanical systems, we might create a frequency that destabilizes the void spawn structure." But she trailed off, looking troubled. "But what?" Elena pressed. "It's risky. If something goes wrong during synchronization, both ships could be destroyed. Not to mention, exposing our quantum core to alien tech opens us up to vulnerabilities we can't predict." Elena sighed, weighing the options. Trusting the Zenari meant taking a leap into the unknown, but ignoring their warning could doom humanity to extinction. After a moment of silence, she made her decision. "We'll help," she declared firmly, "but under one condition: full transparency. No secrets, no manipulation." Calvera regarded her for a long moment before nodding. "Agreed. Prepare yourselves. We approach the shattered expanse." As the hologram vanished, Elena turned to her crew. "You heard them. Let's get to work." Over the next few hours, the Aegis and the Zenari ship prepared for their journey to the shattered expanse, a region of space where gravity warped unnaturally, and stars flickered like dying candles. Engineers worked tirelessly to modify the ship's systems, while scientists analyzed every scrap of data the Zenari provided. Meanwhile, Elena couldn't shake the feeling that something was missing. Why had the Zenari waited until now to act? And why did they seem so certain that humanity's technology held the key? Her doubts deepened when Priya approached her later with an unsettling discovery. "Captain," the scientist began hesitantly, "I cross-referenced the void spawn's energy patterns with historical records. There's a match." "A match?" Elena asked sharply. Priya swallowed hard. "Centuries ago, Earth conducted experiments with zero-point energy. Some of those projects went wrong. Catastrophically wrong. The anomalies disappeared, presumed contained. But what if? What if the void spawn originated from us?" Elena finished, her voice barely above a whisper. Priya nodded. "It's possible. And if it's true, then stopping them isn't just about survival. It's about redemption." The weight of that realization settled over the Aegis like a leaden shroud. As the two ships ventured deeper into the void, humanity's past mistakes loomed larger than ever, threatening to define their future. As the Aegis and the Zenari vessel ventured deeper into the shattered expanse, tensions aboard the human warship began to rise. The eerie silence of the region gnawed at the crew's nerves. Gravity twisted unpredictably. Stars flickered like dying embers, and faint whispers seemed to echo through the void. It wasn't just the environment that unsettled them. It was the growing divide within their ranks. Captain Elena Vasquez noticed the cracks first during a routine briefing. Lieutenant Marcus Kane sat stiffly at the strategy table, his jaw clenched as he reviewed schematics of the void spawn. Dr. Priya Nair, usually calm and composed, snapped at an engineer over minor technical details. Even Ensign Clara Hayes, the normally cheerful communications officer, had become withdrawn and quiet. "What's going on with everyone?" Elena asked later, pulling Marcus aside in the corridor. He hesitated before answering. "Some of the crew, they don't trust the Zenari captain. They think this whole alliance is a setup." Elena frowned. "Do you agree?" Marcus sighed, running a hand through his short-cropped hair. "I don't know. Part of me wants to believe we're doing the right thing, but another part keeps wondering why the Zenari suddenly decided humanity was worth saving. And now this talk about our ancestors creating the void spawn. It feels convenient." Elena nodded thoughtfully. She shared some of Marcus's doubts, but knew they couldn't afford division, not when facing such an existential threat. "Keep an eye on morale," she instructed. "We'll address this head-on if it gets worse." But it did get worse. The next morning, alarms blared across the ship as systems malfunctioned simultaneously. Lights flickered, consoles sparked, and artificial gravity fluctuated wildly, sending crew members stumbling. Chaos erupted on the bridge until Chief Engineer Ryan Cole managed to stabilize the situation. "Sabotage," Ryan reported grimly after inspecting the damage. "Someone tampered with the power relays." Elena's blood ran cold. Sabotage aboard the Aegis. Impossible, or so she'd thought. "Find out who's responsible," she ordered sharply, "and make sure no one breathes a word of this to the Zenari." Hours of investigation led to a shocking discovery. A small group of crew members had been secretly communicating with a shadowy Earth-based corporation known as Nexus Dynamics. Hidden messages embedded in routine transmissions revealed their intent: to exploit Zenari technology for profit, regardless of the cost. When confronted, the ringleader, a junior engineer named Alexei Volkov, defended his actions bitterly. "You think the Zenari are helping us out of kindness. They're using us. If we let them take control of our quantum core, humanity will lose its edge forever." Elena stared at him, her expression unreadable. "You jeopardized this mission, and every life on this ship, for greed." "It's not greed," Alexei shot back. "It's survival. We can't rely on aliens to save us. Humanity has to look out for itself." The argument struck a chord with some of the crew, sparking heated debates throughout the ship. While many remained loyal to Elena and the mission, others sympathized with Alexei's fears. The rift widened, threatening to tear the crew apart. Determined to restore unity, Alina called an emergency assembly in the hangar bay. Standing atop a raised platform, she addressed her crew with unwavering resolve. "I won't lie to you," she began. "This mission is dangerous. Trusting the Zenari isn't easy, but abandoning them now means abandoning ourselves. We've faced betrayal before, in wars, in politics, even among friends. What sets us apart as humans isn't perfection, it's resilience. Together, we've overcome every challenge thrown at us. Are we really going to fall apart now, when the galaxy needs us most?" Her words resonated deeply. Slowly, the murmurs of dissent faded, replaced by nods of agreement. Even Alexei lowered his gaze, shamefaced but silent. Later, as Elena stood alone in her quarters, she allowed herself a moment of vulnerability. The road ahead was fraught with uncertainty, but one truth remained clear. Humanity's greatest strength lay not in its technology or weapons, but in its ability to unite, even against the odds. And unity would be their only hope against the shadows waiting in the void. The shattered expanse loomed before them like a graveyard of stars. The Aegis and the Zenari vessel moved cautiously through the warped space, their sensors struggling to make sense of the chaotic environment. Gravity wells twisted unnaturally, pulling at the ship's hulls, while bursts of energy crackled around them like silent lightning. It was as if the very fabric of reality had been torn apart, a fitting prelude to the horrors that awaited. Captain Elena Vasquez stood on the bridge, her eyes fixed on the swirling darkness ahead. Reports from the Zenari indicated they were nearing the Void Spawn's domain, a region known as the Abyssal Nexus. Here, the entities gathered in greater numbers, feeding off the remnants of civilizations long extinguished. Every step closer felt heavier, not just for the crew, but for the ship itself. The quantum core hummed erratically, as though sensing the unnatural presence nearby. "Captain," Lieutenant Marcus Kane called out, his voice tense. "We're picking up movement, multiple contacts emerging from the void." On the central display, shadowy forms began to materialize. They were unlike anything humanity had ever encountered. Massive tendrils of pure energy writhing like serpents, pulsating with an otherworldly glow. Their movements were fluid yet deliberate, as if they were alive and aware. "They're prodding us," Dr. Pryor said sharply, analyzing data streaming across her console. "Testing our defenses." Elena clenched her fists. "Shields to maximum. Prepare all weapons systems." The Zenari ship responded similarly, its surface shimmering as it activated defensive mechanisms. Calvera's holographic form appeared once more, towering over the bridge. "Stay close to us," the emissary instructed. "Their attacks will come swiftly." Moments later, the first wave struck. Energy tendrils lashed out, striking both ships with devastating force. The Aegis shuddered violently, alarms blaring as shields absorbed the impact. But the Zenari vessel reacted differently. Its biomechanical skin seemed to absorb part of the attack, neutralizing the energy before redirecting it outward. "They're adapting," Preya exclaimed. "Their technology is learning from the Void Spawn." Elena didn't have time to marvel at the discovery. Another tendril surged toward them, this one larger and faster than the last. Thinking quickly, she ordered evasive maneuvers, guiding the Aegis into a spiral dive. The massive warship narrowly avoided destruction, but the strain on the engines was evident. "We can't keep dodging forever." Marcus shouted over the din of alarms. "We need to fight back." Elena nodded grimly. "Deploy the experimental pulse cannons. Target their cores, the glowing nodes at the center of each tendril." The order sent engineers scrambling to activate the new weapon system developed using Zenari designs. Moments later, beams of concentrated energy erupted from the Aegis, slicing through the tendrils with precision. One by one, the Void Spawn recoiled, their forms dissolving into harmless wisps of light. But the victory was short-lived. More tendrils emerged, swarming the ships with relentless fury. The combined firepower of the Aegis and the Zenari vessel barely held them at bay. Shields flickered dangerously low, and structural damage reports poured in from every section of the ship. In desperation, Elena turned to Priya. "Is there any way to amplify the quantum core's output? We need something stronger." Priya hesitated, her fingers flying across her console. "I can reroute auxiliary power, but it'll destabilize the core. If we push too far, we risk blowing ourselves up." "Do it," Elena commanded without hesitation. "We don't have a choice." As Priya worked, the bridge trembled under another barrage of attacks. Crew members clung to their stations, determination etched onto their faces. Finally, Priya gave the signal. Core amplified. Fire at will. The Aegis unleashed a torrent of energy so intense it illuminated the entire expanse. The void spawn recoiled en masse, their forms unraveling under the overwhelming force. For the first time since entering the abyss, silence fell. But the respite was fleeting. As the crew caught their breath, Calavera's hologram reappeared, its tone grave. "This is only the beginning. The heart of the abyss awaits, and it will not yield so easily." Elena stared into the void, knowing the hardest battles were yet to come. Still, she allowed herself a small measure of pride. Against impossible odds, humanity had proven its strength, and whatever lay ahead, they would face it together. The aftermath of the battle left the Aegis battered but alive. The quantum core's amplification had saved them from certain destruction, but at a steep cost. Warning lights flashed across the engineering bay as Chief Engineer Ryan Cole monitored the core's stability, or lack thereof. Its energy output was erratic, threatening to overload and tear the ship apart. "Captain," Ryan reported grimly over the intercom, "we've got maybe an hour before the core destabilizes completely. If we don't vent excess energy soon, it's going to blow." Elena Vasquez clenched her jaw, staring out at the abyssal nexus through the viewport. The swirling void seemed darker now, almost mocking in its silence after the chaos of the void spawn attack. She turned to Dr. Priya Nair, who was already poring over data on the quantum systems. "What are our options?" Elena asked, her voice steadied despite the weight of the situation. Priya hesitated, her expression troubled. "We can try to siphon some energy into auxiliary systems or external storage, but that'll buy us time, not a solution. Venting plasma might stabilize things temporarily, or it could accelerate the collapse." Elena nodded slowly. "Do it. We're too deep in enemy territory to risk losing power entirely." As the engineers worked frantically, Marcus Kane approached her with new intel. "Captain, sensors show increased activity near the center of the abyss. Looks like the void spawn are regrouping, and they're stronger this time." Elena sighed heavily. "Then we need to hold them off long enough to figure out what's next." "Calavera," she called out, activating the communication link with the Zenari vessel. The towering hologram of Calavera appeared moments later, its glowing eyes piercing through the dim bridge lighting. "Your efforts have slowed them, but only briefly. Their hunger grows." "We know," Elena replied sharply. "And unless you've got another ace up your sleeve, we're running out of tricks." Calavera tilted its head slightly. "There is one possibility. A resonance pulse. By synchronizing your quantum core with our neural network, we may create a frequency lethal to the void spawn. But the process will require sacrificing your core entirely." Silence fell over the bridge. Everyone understood what that meant. Without the quantum core, the Aegis would be rendered powerless, adrift in hostile space. Yet doing nothing meant certain doom, for both ships and perhaps for humanity itself. Elena met Calavera's gaze, her resolve hardening. "Tell us what we need to do." Back in engineering, the crew raced against time to prepare the synchronization. Priya led the effort, her hands trembling as she connected the final circuits between the Aegis systems and the Zenari ship's living neural pathways. Around her, alarms blared louder, signaling the core's impending failure. "This is insane," Ryan shouted, sweat dripping down his face. "One wrong move, and we're all dead." "It's the only way," Priya snapped back, her focus unshakable. "Trust me." As the two ships linked together, a strange hum filled the air, a harmonic vibration resonating through every deck. For a moment, it felt almost alive, as though the Aegis and the Zenari vessel were becoming one entity. Outside, the void spawn surged forward, their tendrils crackling with fury. This time, there was no dodging, no counterattack, only the hope that the resonance pulse would work. "Fire the pulse," Elena ordered, her voice cutting through the tension. The combined energy erupted outward in a blinding wave of light, engulfing the void spawn. Their forms shattered instantly, dissolving into nothingness. Cheers erupted on the bridge, but they were short-lived. Core destabilization imminent, Ryan warned, panic creeping into his voice. "Vent it now," Elena commanded. With a deafening roar, the quantum core ejected its remaining energy into space, creating a brilliant supernova-like explosion. The Aegis went dark, its systems shutting down as gravity pulled it toward the edge of the abyss. On the Zenari ship, Calvera spoke solemnly. "You have proven yourselves worthy. Rest assured, we will not abandon you." As the crew of the Aegis sat in stunned silence, Priya made a startling discovery while reviewing residual energy readings from the void spawn. Her eyes widened in horror as fragments of data revealed something unthinkable. "Captain," she whispered, her voice shaking. "The void spawn, they're not just energy beings. They're remnants, traces of civilizations that ascended beyond physical form. And their origin matches Earth's ancient experiments." Elena froze, the implications sinking in. Humanity hadn't just created weapons centuries ago. They'd unleashed something far greater, something they couldn't control. The void spawn weren't just predators. They were echoes of humanity's hubris. For the first time, Elena felt the full weight of their legacy and the price of redemption. The revelation hit the crew of the Aegis like a tidal wave. Humanity's ancient experiments, once dismissed as failed attempts at harnessing zero-point energy, had birthed the very entities now threatening to consume the galaxy. The void spawn weren't just mindless destroyers. They were fragments of civilizations that had sought transcendence, only to lose themselves to entropy and hunger. And now, humanity was face to face with its own creation. Captain Elena Vasquez stood in stunned silence on the darkened bridge, her fists clenched tightly at her sides. The weight of responsibility pressed down on her shoulders, not just for her crew, but for all of humanity. She glanced at Dr. Priya, who sat hunched over her console, her face pale as she reviewed the data again and again. "Are you sure about this?" Elena asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Priya nodded slowly, her hands trembling as she pointed to the readings. "It's undeniable, Captain. These energy patterns, they match Earth's old experimental signatures. We didn't just create weapons back then. We tore open a rift we couldn't close. The void spawn are what's left of those who try to ascend." Lieutenant Marcus Kane stepped forward, his expression grim. "So what do we do? If these things came from us, does that mean we're responsible for stopping them?" Elena straightened, determination hardening her features. "Yes," she said firmly. "We caused this mess, and we'll fix it. But we can't do it alone." "Calvera," she called out, activating the communication link once more. The towering hologram of the Zenari emissary flickered into existence, its compound eyes glowing faintly. "You have questions," Calvera stated, its tone unreadable. "You knew," Elena accused, her voice sharp. "You knew the void spawn originated from Earth's experiments. Why didn't you tell us sooner?" Calvera hesitated before responding. "Knowledge without context is dangerous. Would your crew have accepted their role in this catastrophe, or would denial have doomed us all?" The words stung, but Elena couldn't deny their truth. Still, anger simmered beneath her resolve. "Fair enough," she said tightly. "But we need answers now. How do we stop them permanently?" Calvera regarded her silently for a moment before speaking. The resonance pulse weakened them, but it was only temporary. To end the void spawn, you must sever their connection to their source, the abyssal nexus itself. And how do we do that? Marcus demanded. The nexus is alive, Calvera explained. It feeds on chaos and despair, growing stronger with each civilization it consumes. To destroy it, you must introduce order, a counterbalance so pure it disrupts its existence. Elena frowned. What kind of order? A sacrifice, Calvera replied gravely. An act of unity between life and technology, organic and synthetic. Your quantum core holds the key. It must be reintegrated into the nexus, anchoring stability where there is none. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Reintegrating the quantum core meant sacrificing the Aegis entirely, and likely losing the lives of everyone aboard. Yet failing to act meant allowing the void spawn to spread unchecked, consuming countless worlds. It's not just our ship, Elena murmured softly. It's humanity's legacy, our chance to make things right. Priya looked up, tears glistening in her eyes. Then let's do it. Let's finish what we started. As plans were drawn and preparations began, Elena addressed her crew one last time. Standing in the dimly lit hangar bay, she spoke with unwavering conviction. This isn't just about survival anymore. It's about redemption. For every mistake we've made, for every life lost along the way. Today, we prove that humanity isn't defined by its failures, but by its courage to rise above them. The crew erupted into cheers, their fear replaced by determination. Together, they worked tirelessly to prepare the final maneuver, knowing it might cost them everything. As the Aegis drifted closer to the heart of the abyss, its systems flickering back to life briefly, Elena felt a strange sense of peace. For the first time, humanity wasn't running from its past, it was confronting it head-on. And in doing so, they forged a new future, one built on unity, sacrifice, and hope. The Aegis approached the heart of the abyssal nexus, its once mighty hull battered and scarred, but still defiant. The quantum core hummed faintly, its energy barely holding together as it prepared for one final act, a sacrifice that would echo through the stars. Captain Elena Vasquez stood on the bridge, her hands gripping the railing as she stared at the swirling void ahead. It pulsed with chaotic light, a maelstrom of destruction and despair. This was where humanity's reckoning would take place. All systems are go, Lieutenant Marcus Kane reported, his voice steady despite the weight of the moment. Quantum core is stable. For now. Dr. Priya Nair nodded from her station, her eyes fixed on the holographic display showing the synchronization sequence between the Aegis and the Zenari vessel. We're locked in sync with their neural network. One pulse will anchor us to the nexus. Elena took a deep breath, addressing her crew over the intercom. This is it. Every decision we've made has led us here. Today, we prove that humanity isn't defined by its mistakes, but by how we rise above them. To everyone aboard the Aegis, thank you. You've shown courage beyond measure. Her words hung in the air, met with silence, not out of fear, but out of reverence. Each crew member knew what lay ahead, yet there was no hesitation. They had come too far to falter now. Initiate the pulse, Elena ordered softly. With a deafening roar, the quantum core unleashed its remaining energy in a brilliant burst of light. The Aegis shuddered violently as the beam connected with the abyssal nexus, piercing its chaotic heart. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the nexus began to destabilize. Its swirling chaos fractured, cracks spreading like spiderwebs across its surface. The void spawn writhed in agony, their forms unraveling as the source of their power collapsed. On the Zenari ship, Calvera watched silently, its towering form illuminated by the dying light of the nexus. You have done the impossible, it intoned, its voice carrying both awe and sorrow. The galaxy owes you a debt it can never repay. As the nexus shattered completely, an eerie calm settled over the expanse. Stars flickered back to life, their light returning after centuries of darkness. Gravity stabilized, and the warped space around them smoothed into clarity. The shattered expanse was no more. It had been reborn. But the cost was high. The Aegis drifted powerless, its systems offline, its crew battered but alive. Smoke filled the corridors, and emergency lights cast a dim glow over weary faces. Yet amidst the wreckage, there was a quiet triumph. Humanity had faced its greatest failure and redeemed itself. Back on Earth, news of the mission spread like wildfire. Holographic broadcasts showed images of the restored star systems, accompanied by reports of the Aegis' heroic stand. People gathered in streets and squares, looking up at the night sky with renewed hope. For the first time, humanity saw itself not as conquerors or explorers, but as stewards of something greater. Elena sat alone in her quarters, staring at a photo of her family before joining the fleet. Her thoughts turned to the future, not just for herself, but for all of humanity. "We've earned our place among the stars," she whispered to the empty room. "Now it's time to build something lasting." Weeks later, rescue vessels arrived, towing the crippled Aegis back toward Earth. The Zenari fleet remained nearby, offering aid and forging new alliances. As the survivors disembarked, they were greeted as heroes, not because they had defeated an enemy, but because they had shown the galaxy what unity truly meant. In the years that followed, the legend of the Aegis became etched into history. Its name symbolized resilience, sacrifice, and the unyielding spirit of humanity. And though the scars of the past would never fully fade, they served as a reminder. Even in the face of chaos, light could prevail, if only we dared to fight for it. Humanity's journey among the stars had only just begun.